What's pride? If you ask a Merriam-Webster dictionary, it'll state pride, noun, the quality or state of being proud, such as 1, reasonable self-esteem, confidence and satisfaction in oneself, self-respect. 2, pleasure that comes from some relationship, association, achievement, or possession that is seen as a source of honor, respect, etc. 3, exaggerated self-esteem, conceit. 4, usually pride, an event or series of events celebrating and affirming the rights, equality, and culture of LGBTQ+ people. If you ask a fan of the anime K-pop Demon Hunters, which I am, pride is the Saja Boys fan base. Come join the pride. If you ask the Bible, pride is generally considered a sin, particularly when it involves an excessive view of oneself and a disregard for God. It is often seen as one of the 7 deadly sins and is depicted as the root of other sins. Growing up in rural Imperial County, California, I was mostly familiar with this biblical definition of pride. I didn't know Pride was a festival for the queer community until I moved away to undergrad at San Diego State. I didn't know much of queer history because I didn't have access to it. But I dove into the LGBT student union at my college and began learning more. I learned about Stonewall, Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and so much more about the first Pride was actually a riot. I found the positivity of being proud. Proud of myself, proud of those folks who came out before me, proud to create space for those coming out after me. And at the same time in my life, I wanted to live out the values Gary's reflection described about pride: identity, accomplishment, and effort. I began volunteering for San Diego Pride. I was part of the sign crew for several years. I rode in the parade when I was president of the LGBT group. I even announced the parade during my summer internship at a radio station. Then I spent a few years away from Pride because I was upset at how commercialized, capitalist, and pro-law enforcement it seemed to become instead. I would hold a Pride brunch with my friends, and we wear glitter beards and eyebrows. It was my way of glam protesting the establishment I saw happening. Is that still pride? Yeah, I'd argue that's still pride. Then tragedy struck. The Pulse nightclub shootings in June of 2016. That's the year I started going back to pride because I wasn't going to let hate scare me from being loud and proud. That year, my friends and I marched with our UU congregation. I was there for those who couldn't be there for their own safety or couldn't be there yet because they weren't out and frightened. And that summer, I remembered that pride embodies heaven on earth for the briefest weekends across cities that host them. Lots of glitter, kink spaces, drag shows, family areas, youth spaces, concerts, and pure joy and love. Everyone's welcome. There's even a marked off spot for protesters against pride at the parades because pride is for all. This was pride. And while I was away learning all this, a significant shift happened in my hometown of El Centro. The Imperial Valley LGBT Resource Center opened in 2015, and that center was hosting Pride, also in October. When I moved back there during seminary, it made absolute sense to begin volunteering there because I wanted my rural community to know that slice of Pride heaven was for them too. However, I had a gut check when I met with their founding director, Rosa Diaz. While we won't get along with everyone we meet, I had an off-putting feeling about her. I don't know how else to say this without seeming mean, so I'm just going to name it and ask for your grace. Rosa felt it essential to tell me she's a non-practicing lesbian. Lots of unprocessed shame there. And even referred to trans folks as the transvestite community, all during my first conversation with her about wanting to get involved after moving back. My head sank at the thought of supporting someone who expressed these things. I had to wrap my heart around the idea that perhaps rural America needed someone who thought this way for an LGBT center to be viable there. Maybe I had become too liberal and progressive in my thinking for the space I had re-entered. But pride is for all, right? I kept reminding myself of this, so I opted to stay an arm's length distance and volunteered instead during significant events, Pride, community meals, etc. Places where I could still show up and support without getting into the weeds of the bureaucracy of the LGBT Center. And then it happened. In December of 2024, the Imperial Valley LGBT Resource Center rebranded itself as the Donnelly Community Center. Why, you ask? Because the founder didn't want to support trans youth in seeking gender-affirming care. She felt that far-left progressive ideas had the LGB community dizzy and concerned. And this was her way of opening the space to the entire community and no longer having to center the LGBT community. All of this is happening right before the new administration takes office. Currently, the federal government is attacking our queer community outright. Agencies have been busy scrubbing photographic and written references about women, people of color, and members of the LGBTQ+ community from their websites. The U.S. Department of Transportation announced a nationwide roadway safety initiative, which is being utilized in requiring cities and states to remove rainbow-colored crosswalks. Supreme Court of the United States is hearing debate about conversion therapy bans violating the free speech rights of licensed counselors. The first challenge to same-sex marriage since the Supreme Court enshrined the right a decade ago comes before a very different mix of justices. And the ongoing strategic attack on the trans community that Reverend Christine shared with us last week. Historians warn that this kind of systematic attack and erasure has in the past come when governments strip rights from people, starting with the most marginalized groups. Instead of supporting the trans community at a time when it's needed most, my hometown's LGBT Center decided to obey in advance and undercut the most marginalized community within the queer community. That's just one example of what is happening in rural America. I kept in touch with friends I had made in my rural community. I was ready to live out my UU values of organizing and of reaching out about what was occurring, and feeling remorseful about not speaking up sooner when I saw the signs early. Thankfully, other LGBT centers responded by condemning the Imperial Valley LGBT Resource Center's actions. Others were paying attention and answering the call. In the months to come, the director was ousted by the organizing board members, and the wave of relief that came over my body at this news, the bliss of a wrong being corrected, is so liberating. Where was my pride? I didn't realize that the pride feeling had left my spirit while all of that was going on. I was missing my glitter heaven space because for a long moment, it had been erased. And folks in this administration are still actively erasing and attacking our queer community. Recognizing that this is a time when it's important we, as a people of faith, Show our support for pride in our communities, big and small, because pride is for all. And this is a lot. I know we're all overextended and exhausted from trying to survive these turbulent times. When I picture myself taking it all on alone, it's overwhelming. I don't even want to begin if I'm by myself taking it all on. But I know I'm not alone. I'm part of a larger community, sharing the heaviness of it all. Here at UUCP, I'm part of this community. I know I'm not taking it all on alone with you beside me. This is me telling you, you're not taking this all on alone either. You are not alone during this time. I got you. We got each other. At UUCP, our mission is to be a spiritual community for our times, theologically diverse, radically inclusive, justice-centered. Pride epitomizes the mission of our UU values during these dumpster fire times. This is why we decided to have 3 weeks of pride this year, beloveds, because it's needed now more than ever in our world. So I end where I began. What's pride? Pride is blessing one another in glitter. Pride is shining our light through the depths of despair and chaos that this administration is pursuing. Pride is centering and supporting our trans community right now, this day, this hour. Pride is being the church that showcases what heaven on earth looks like. Pride is our love coming alive outside of these walls and into the streets. Let us continue to celebrate pride in all these ways together, beloveds. We got us. Let it be so.